If you haven't played Magblade, so we'll go over two different problems that a lot of people who play Magblade encounter. Right, so if you only play melee, if you only play Magblade, you're obviously stuck, right, fighting in this sort of combat range, and then being forced to disengage. A hard part is when you're fighting something like a Stam Sword or a Warden. The reason being is because they have a lot of AoEs that will pull you out of cloak. Obviously, Stam Sword has Hurricane, as well as most of them run dual wield spin to win. Of course, if you're fighting a Stam Warden, they have, you know, both Shulk, Dawnbreaker, as well as most of them run dual wield, so they also have spin to win. And so depending upon who you're fighting, and then if you're a Magblade that runs Destro Resto, the biggest problems that you'll have is fighting a Magical Warden, as well as either Mag DK or Stam DK because of wings. And because typically on their back bar is usually like 3 different shields, followed by their buffs and cloak. And literally on their front bar, the only thing they have is like Swallow Soul, Cripple, maybe they have like Assassin's Will on their front bar. So a lot of their front bar is just all single target abilities, and of course that gets completely shut down by either Mag DK, Stam DK, and by Warden because of their shields, either through shimmering or wings. And so that's why this build is very diverse. It allows you the ability to engage those type of builds from both range. And so let's say if like this guy was like a Mag DK or a Stam DK, the moment he sees me go into cloak and then light attack and hit him with a Swallow Soul, he's immediately going to cast wings, which shuts down my entire ranged ability because I'm just going to reflect everything to myself. And so what I do is I know that. So what I do is I proc that. I know he's going to pop reflect, or if he's a Warden, I know that he's going to put up shimmering. So I automatically bait that, right? So I automatically go in, make sure my buffs are up, and then I immediately switch over to my melee bar, and I will come in for a heavy attack, surprise attack, bash, cloak, and then move back out, and then I will utilize my movement speed from Cripple to get out, and then re-engage from behind. Because what happens most of the time is that they will, right? What happens most of the time, once I cloak, they're going to spin to it, so I'll engage again from afar, re-cloak and move all the way around to get to behind him, to basically go back in and utilize my heavy attack and then surprise attack bash, waiting either for an ult. And so that works both against, you know, Magden, Stamden, Stam DK, or Magicka DK because of, right, so instead of light attack and using Swallow Soul, I'll light attack and drop path, right, and then I'll go behind him so that it forces him to fight, try to drag the fight into my AoE. This is a big blockade, is big, it's 18 by 12, right? So you have a lot of room to move around within it. The same thing when you're fighting, for example, either a Stam Nightblade or a Magicka Nightblade. The moment you attack them from afar, they're going to immediately cloak. So what you do is, once you know where they are, immediately drop your path and fight in your path. Move back and forth, weaving in and out of your path so that it knocks them out of cloak. You do that whether you're fighting a Stam Blade, or you always want to kind of have that as your go-between so that you're fighting back and forth. So when he chooses to cloak, it either forces him to dodge roll out of it and then cloak, or he cloaks, he gets revealed, and then forces him to waste more Magicka. So it's the same tactic when you're fighting someone that's like a wing spammer. So kind of like bait it, go in, and then sidestep to get back into from the side or from the back, and then go in for a heavy attack, concealed weapon, bash, hit my ult, and then back out of the fight. Because his wings will be down at that point, his shimmering will be down, and then I'll go in and then I will cripple and then back out. And so what that will do is it will bait the AoE. It would immediately bait the AoE. The moment you do that, the moment you come in from melee and you do that, and then come back, cripple, and then pop cloak, it will immediately bait them to AoE you to pull you from stealth. But because you've rooted them and now you have major expedition, and then you gain the extra 25% when you cloak because of concealed weapon passive, it gives you a lot of mobility. And you can see that when I cripple and then cloak, you'll see how quickly I can disengage and then come back in from afar, turn back over, and then quickly re-engage. And you're basically doing that with a lot of those classes, especially when you're fighting a Stam Sorc. I think it's very important because of Hurricane, and you don't want to be stuck inside a Stam Sorc's Hurricane when it's enlarged. So really the only time that you want to engage fighting a Stam Sorc is when he rebuffs his Hurricane. And the moment his Hurricane blows up to the second size, it's still small enough for you to be able to cripple and cloak out of, because you have a lot of the movement speed, because we have access to the 25% from concealed. You gain another 30%. Now he's rooted and slowed by 30%. So that allows me mobility. It gives me a lot more mobility than he does. So typically what you'll see is they'll streak forward. The moment you root them, either most Sorcs or most Stam Sorcs, the moment you kind of cloak near them, they'll streak forward. And that's why if you're fighting him and you do that, you immediately go to the side, right? And so that promotes him to streak forward. So then he streaks forward ahead of you, and now you have exactly where you want, which is where you want to get behind him. And then you come right in for the heavy attack. The glyph will proc. You'll gain the weapon buff, and then you go right in for your soul harvest. And it's a lot of burst to deal with. It'll immediately bait a dodge roll, and then you just cloak. Just go right back into stealth and go right back into your rotation. Will force him onto the defensive. The only major differences is that there's no problem baiting mag DKs or stam DKs to using wings, because they're so used to shutting down Nightblades, especially Magblades, that they don't, when you cloak, they don't even think that you're moving closer to them. They just think that you're either repositioning, you're going to come back out of cloak and start light weaving again. But actually what you're doing is you're coming in to set up for the heavy attack and bash, and it catches them off guard, because the moment you do that, concealed weapon out of cloak will stun them. And so immediately when you stun them, if you don't have a soul harvest up, and I would say even if you do have soul harvest up, if you use it, automatically cripple, because he's not going to think to use his wings. Same thing when fighting most Magdans because of shimmering. You don't want to feed them ult by utilizing your ranged attacks. You want to kind of keep them baited into melee, and then the moment you see the shimmering go down, then go back, light attack, weave, cripple, and disengage from the fight, because more than likely he's either going to spin to win, shock, Dawnbreaker, or if it's a Warden, if it's a Magdan and he has his storm up, he'll utilize that. And so that's why you want to have this in and out combat, where you're moving in, you're backing out, you're moving, you're backing out, you're rooting before you're hitting your cloak to gain the mobility. Just think of it as a buff, right? Before I go into cloak, I have to make sure that my major expedition is up. And of course I want to make sure that he's as slow as possible, because this is going to reduce his movement speed by 40%. It's going to root him for 1.5 seconds. So it's either going to bait him to block, not move, or dodge roll. Another thing that's important to remember is when you bait the roll dodge with cripple, you immediately go in and just wait. If he roll dodges, wait for the roll dodge to finish and then hit him with the conceal. So that basically what does, he wastes the stamina for the initial roll dodge, then he has to CC break, and then if you're going into your rotation, it will either bait a block, it'll either bait him to go to his back bar and re-shield or heal, or it will rebait another roll dodge, which by that point he'll be out of stamina. And at that point, it forces him to use a pot early than he would want to. It's the same thing when you're fighting an Argonian. That's how you bait anyone who's playing an Argonian to waste their pot early. And it's basically to cripple, go back in for the kill, go in for the conceal from stealth to get him to be CC'd, and then either wait for the roll dodge. You can always bar swap and reroute, which will definitely force the roll dodge bait. And then by the time your next concealed is able to stun, he'll more than likely not be able to CC break, or will be more hesitant to CC break because he's utilized so much of his stam just within a very short window. And so that basically allows you to minimize the amount of damage that you take by utilizing, like, going from behind. And now that's exactly how I would bait somebody. And I'll show you a really quick clip that I had posted on YouTube, exactly how I would immediately go in for a burst, and I cancel my ult with a roll dodge. It was one of the videos I posted about Nightblade balancing around cloak, and you'll see it. I'll show this in a second. And the reason being is because a lot of people who are Magicka builds that run Destro, they utilize Clench for the CC, right? A lot of people will use Clench for the CC, and so when it happens to me all the time as a Nightblade, or when you CC them, they immediately want to CC you back. It's just like player nature. So the moment you come in and you combo them and then you CC them, they want to immediately CC you because it gives them that momentary pressure relief. And so what you do is when you bait that and then you CC, you dodge roll, animation cancel your ult, and it will usually, they'll miss the light, you'll miss the light attack, you'll miss the CC, your ult will go off, and then you immediately recloak and go in for an impale from cloak if it doesn't burst him down. So I'll show you that real quick. I believe this is shows up right at the beginning. Yeah, this is it. So let me just highlight this over. There we go. Go to desktop, and we'll hit play. And you'll see it right here. So I'm coming out of cloak. This is what I talked about right from the very beginning, which is the first thing I do. I'm rebuffed and I hit my cripple because I want my mobility, right? I don't even remember, and this was a previous build when I was first testing out how I would play the Nightblade this way. And so I immediately go in for, I buff up, I have my mobility, I drop my path procs my weapon glyph, so now I have already put in a little bit of damage. You can see he's already at 78%, right? He's got 23.5k. He went, you can see, like, he went to light attack me and then go in for the CC, and I immediately move behind him, right, to get my concealed off. Hesitates, and then boom, I go back in with another light attack. Now I have fiery glyph reproc on my front bar, which is why in my build video I talked about why I run in an infused fiery weapon on both bars, as you can see, because it procs a lot of upfront damage. And then it procs, I immediately dodge roll, cast animation cancel my soul harvest, which I get a crit off, and then it burns him. The burn passive comes off, and it's an immediate kill for this build. And that's particularly how I like to play this, very in and out, but it gives you the opportunity to be able to trade both from range as well as from melee, because a lot of builds have that problem. It's one of the things that a lot of people that don't know how to play Nightblade, they end up getting themselves stuck into, and this is what they complain about, that they complain about wings, they complain about shimmering, because all you basically do is either get reflected back to you, or you end up feeding alt to a Magden or to a Stamden, and then they just come in and Dawnbreaker, Shulk, you know, spin the win on you. And so this gives you the opportunity to trade from him from range, and then be able to come in to secure the kill. And then of course disengage and always stay very mobile. And so it allows you to avoid a lot of damage because you always have Swallow Soul ticking. We always have our health recovery ticking, and of course because we have such high max magicka and magical recovery, we're able to stay within the fight while still maintaining a lot of burst. And so that's why I still run my flame glyph on my front bar as well as my back bar. Now you could run something else if you prefer, but the flame glyph, the burning that procs from it, in my opinion, is better than the potential 8% that you get from concussion procking. And then also the reason I also like it is because if I disengage and I proc burning, the burning status effects will stay on him, whereas if I miss the window for concussion, then it just drops and the person doesn't take any damage. So that's basically little tips for playing this particular build as both melee with the ability to utilize ranged. And I'll be playing more of this build over the weekend. It's a really fun build, I like it. It's very strong, but you have to have a lot of situational awareness, when to engage and when to disengage, when to go in for the kill. And of course, knowing when to drop your Veil of Blades to be able to stay in the fight.